Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LinkedIn Live on articulating the central message of your research. This is the second in a series of LinkedIn Live presentations that we're putting on to connect with our community on LinkedIn and to share a bit more about the process of communicating research in accessible and visual ways. My name is Mihaela Gruja. I'm the founder and director of Research Retold, and today I'll be your host, and we'll be talking about this topic of how do we develop a central message based on our research findings and looking at some tools that might help you in that process. I'll be recording the session today and sharing it with participants who couldn't attend. And so hopefully you will get as much value out of this as possible. And please do share your feedback with me afterwards. So there's a bit of background in terms of the need for creating a central research message and how might this be helpful? Why is this helpful in the research communication process? So as a brief summary of what the research communication process entails is taking a longer piece of research that is typically written in traditional academic ways, in a traditional academic format, and extracting from that key findings and implications for typically a non-academic audience, repurposing that text into a format, language, and context that that non-academic audience can understand. Starting this process, we talk about the importance of considering our audience a lot, but in this process of extracting those key findings for our audience, we'll find ourselves referring back to a central research message. And this is what we have found to be especially effective with all the collaborations we've had in producing accessible formats. We'll ask them, what is the main message of this research? And naturally, researchers can do that very easily, especially when they're describing what their research is about, or they're asked to write it in a 50-word sentence without the pressure of it being labeled as a central research message. So the central research message is effectively something that tries to capture what the problem of your, we'll talk a little bit about the structure in a second, but it's trying to get to the heart of the message and act as a guiding sentence or a guiding paragraph, if you will, a couple of sentences in there that you can refer back to every time you are unsure of what content to leave or to put into your short format document. So we're starting from the assumption of the people who are attending and the people who are listening to this message. We're starting from the assumption that you do want to create a format that communicates the key findings of your work to a non-academic audience. And the central research message can help you in deciding what content is useful to keep in and what content might you leave out. So if we were to think about what might the central research message include, I'm going to just quickly look on my screen here. I won't be sharing the presentation, but I have a few notes. This section on creating a central research message is part of a longer program called the Now What program. It's a 4-week program where participants are invited to develop their own 2-page visual summary based on their research. It's spread over 4 weeks. We're actually starting the second cohort of this program on the 3rd of October. So if you want to know more details about that, you can let me know. But this is sort of the second item on our week 1 lesson is how do we articulate the central message of our research. So one way you could go about it is thinking about what's the problem or the context in which your research is operating. Why should people care? And how are you going about solving this problem? Maybe by answering these 3 questions, you can get to the heart of your central research message, or you might state a unique point of view and immediately offer a sentence around what is at stake for people who don't adopt this point of view. So I'm going to give you some examples as well in this call, give you some inspiration in creating your own central research message. But some further advice and best practices to help you craft this is, for example, you might be looking at what is the main sorry to jump around a little bit. It might depend a lot on where you are at in your research process. I'm starting from the assumption here that those attending the call might have an idea of what the main contribution of their research is. If you do have that, include that as a key component of your central research message. Keep it concise. So this message is not for anyone to see. This is not something you will be posting online necessarily or sharing with other people. This is simply a guiding paragraph that's going to give you clarity on what you want to communicate before you start developing this further into a different format. So you want to keep it concise. You'll certainly want to address this so what factor in it. So what? Why should people care? Why is this important? It might be that the first answer you give yourself is not enough. You might want to ask yourself, well, so what? Why does this matter? Why is it that what I have researched really going to resonate with my audience? What is the point? Why should people read further? In developing this central research message, you will always want to consider your target audience. I mean, in any aspect of the research communication process, you will want to consider your target audience, tailor your sentence to the audience that you want to communicate with. Think about them as you encapsulate what the key findings are. In this section, I want to share with you 2 exercises to help you explain your research plainly. So the first one involves an online tool that allows you to only use the 1,000 most used English words. And the second one is to help you create a 60-second research message using more like a pitching exercise. So the first tool that I'll share with you in the chat is the Upgoer 5 text editor. This was designed by a research fellow at the Francis Crick Institute. And the tool, as I said, only allows you to use the most common 1,000 English words to articulate your message. And this exercise seems lighthearted and easy, but time and time again, when we introduce this in our workshops, it just reveals how tricky it is to explain complex ideas in plain words. As you go through the exercise, keep in mind that you're not being asked to publish this summary anywhere. This is simply an exercise to get you out of the academic writing mode, to use simpler words to talk about your work. And try not to take it too seriously and have a bit of fun with it. So after this session, you can go ahead and have a play around with the tool and see how it would fit your own research. Think about ways to pare your text down without dumbing it down, but always using a common word other than jargon. The feedback we've received from people using this tool is that it gave them a different perspective on how they could explain their research, and it allowed them to get to the core of what their research is trying to say and really use that as a guiding sentence as they develop their documents further. Another way you could think about getting to the heart of your research message is to try to explain your research in 60 seconds. You could think of this as an elevator pitch. Say you are stuck in an elevator with your ideal audience, maybe say the UN Secretary General. When they would ask you, so what do you work on? This would be the example that you'd give them. So for example, if I was stuck with the elevator with Nora Volkov, this is what I would say in 60 seconds. I run a company that solves the problem of research findings being often hard to digest for non-experts. Their potential to make a positive change in society is not maximized, and Research Retold helps time-poor researchers create digestible and visual summaries based on their findings. Now, you can get to the heart of your research using the principles AIDCA. IDCA, I think, is another way to pronounce that. I will put that in the chat as well, and more information about it. So although this model was originally developed for advertising by Harry Kidston, it's very useful to help you think about your research in a way that better connects with your audience. And it's helpful for academics used to over-contextualizing with detailed methodologies, and has similarities what you may have heard journalists use in terms of the reverse pyramid. So putting the most important and attention-grabbing information at the beginning. The A in the acronym stands for attention. What's the problem or context? This is the hook or opening statement to grab attention. The I in the acronym stands for generate interest. So why should people care? How are you going about solving this problem? D is for igniting desire. So from those who you want to engage with your work, what is going to make them want to know more? Build conviction, that is the C in the acronym. Build conviction with your audience, so mention previous impact and track record. And A at the end, having some sort of call to action or a change that you would want to see happen or how things will improve. This exercise is most effective if you do it with someone else. So you might want to give yourself a 10-minute window to craft a 60-second research statement that captures the key points of your research, and then share that with someone else. Another tip here, one competition, online competition I found really helpful here is the University of Queensland. You might have heard of the 3-minute thesis competition. Basically, this competition supports students' capacity to effectively explain their research in 3 minutes in a language appropriate to non-specialists. There are many videos online of 3-minute thesis videos that you could access and have a look at. to see how academics are capturing the key message of their research in just 3 minutes. It's a little bit longer than 60 seconds, but still much, much shorter than a typical academic presentation. So on the screen right now, I'm going to put a few examples of key central research message that effectively showcase how this could be done. Each sentence highlights a compelling and essential contribution to the respective field, making it clear to the audience what the research aims to achieve. Participants in the Now What program in the first cohort found it really helpful to see these structures, these concrete examples, and then choosing one of these to adapt to their own research project. I think this is all I have to say really about the central research message. Thank you so much for your time. For those who attended today, I really appreciate it. I'll be announcing the details of the Now What program more on our LinkedIn page, and of the next live presentation on the LinkedIn page as well. And I look forward to seeing more of you there. Take care. Bye.